Hi, it's V from Crafting Daily Dose. Today I have a treat for you. Actually, it's a treat container, a sour cream type of treat container, and I've decorated mine to look like a candy corn. It comes together really pretty quickly, and I'm excited to show you how to make it. I'm starting with a piece of basic white cardstock that is 5.5 inches by 4 1/4 inches, and then I have two pieces of the Pansy Petals Designer Series paper. Each one of them is 5.5 by 1.5 inches, and they're going to be layered on top of the cardstock like this to form a candy corn pattern. Now, if you look very carefully, you'll notice that this white section is just a little bit shorter than the others. It's not exactly 1/3. If you wanted to make it strictly 1/3, you can make this piece 4.5 inches in height if you wanted to. But the reason I chose these measurements is to keep things simple and also so that you can get 4 of these out from a single sheet of cardstock. So actually, this works for almost any size that you want. So you can use a rectangle or a square, depending on what you want your finished piece to look like. If you're using a rectangle, you probably want to have the longer side going across, but even that's up to you too. For your adhesive, it's easiest to use a strong double-sided tape like Terran tape. You can also use glue, but I find that a little bit more fiddly to do. You can make these so that you seal off the top with more adhesive, and so it's sort of a one-time use. If you want yours to be able to be opened and closed again, you can use a hole punch and some ribbon. I'm using the glittered organdy ribbon. You can also use a little clip. And then optionally for mine, I'm going to use some leftover pieces that I have from the October 2021 paper pumpkin. I'm going to use these little tags with a Happy Halloween message stamped on it from the stamp set in the kit. And I'm also going to be using these little black stickers that are used to make the pumpkin faces. Now eventually we're going to roll this cardstock into a tube. So I'm going to go ahead and start to work it just to make it more flexible. Then I'm going to start to curl some of the Designer Series paper and then get that ready to glue down. Here I'm using the multi-purpose glue, and I'm using the broad tip rather than the more pointed one that I use more often. Now, if you don't have colored Designer Series paper, you can also color in the stripes on your cardstock using markers or ink. I don't recommend layering more cardstock on top though, because actually it's easier to work with this when the paper is thinner. You could choose to make the whole thing out of Designer Series paper, but putting 2 layers of cardstock is going to make it thick and harder to roll into a tube. I noticed that I have a little smudge on my paper, so I'm going to use my sand eraser to get that off before I go on. Okay, once your paper is glued in place, you can again start to kind of curl it and check to make sure that you don't have any big white gaps showing. And check and make sure that you have all of your ends down flat. If you don't, go ahead and adjust that now. Now I'm going to turn this over, and I have the yellow section at the bottom, because that's usually the bottom of the candy corn. Now I'm going to place some Terran tape adhesive all along this side and then along the bottom halfway through. My paper is 5.5 inches across, so the halfway point would be 2 3/4. So I'm counting out that measurement, and then I'm going to add an extra 1/8 of an inch which is half of a block on the grid paper. It's perfectly fine to also just eyeball this, but if you're going to err, it's better to err on the side of putting a little bit too much adhesive rather than not enough, because then you'll have a gap at the bottom of your treat holder when it's closed. So just to clarify, we've got tape along one edge. It doesn't really matter whether you do the left side or the right side. And then we have some along half of the bottom. And just to double check, this is the bottom of our treat holder here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to peel the backing away. And I'm going to try to roll this back into a tube. There's going to be some overlap on the edges. So I'm sort of putting this edge right along the bottom side of that adhesive so that when it folds over, they're going to connect and stick together like this. And I find it easier to do just a little bit of the backing as I go instead of trying to get the whole thing to line up. So I'm just doing a little bit at a time, pressing more and more of it together. And then I'll pull off the last bit of backing here. And then you want to use your fingers to really press well on that. Now you're going to turn your attention to the bottom and you're going to squeeze this together. So I'm squeezing this seam off to one side. It's going to come together like this. Again, just check and make sure that everything is secured down. Now I'll take off some of this backing. So there's the start of our treat holder. Then what you're going to do is you're going to pinch the top closed, and you want it to be at right angles to this. So here you can see how it's already starting to kind of want to close itself. Just go ahead and pinch it and help it along here. And there's your little treat holder. Now, as I said before, if you want to, you can go ahead and fill this with whatever you want and then put some more tear and tape or even glue along the top and just pinch that close, and then they're going to have to rip it open when they're ready to open it. Or if you want it to be reusable, go ahead and punch yourself some little holes here. We'll just pretend like I filled this up with some goodies, and now I'm going to go ahead and thread the ribbon through. My ribbon is about 14 inches long. And I'll also thread the ribbon through my tag. I've stamped the tag from the paper pumpkin kit using the Happy Halloween sentiment, and I've stamped it on both sides. And as a final step, I'll add some of those stickers from the paper pumpkin kit. And there is our little treat container. I hope that you've enjoyed this dose of creativity and that you'll get a chance to try it yourself. I look forward to seeing you the next time. Till then, have a great day.